my number one piece of advice is to work on yourself first, because
Mhm.
most of us as parents, we don't realize that, even if our children are learning a certain curriculum at school and we're not practiced in it,
Right.
we're not going to speak the same language. So when it comes down to it, I've made the choice to do the work for myself in order to be that guide and be able to be that model for my children and my students, because we can't give away what we don't have. So if
Yeah.
we're preaching about, mindset and things, but we're not practicing it ourselves, we're not having our inside, our integrity goes out the window, and our kids are not listening to us, they're watching us.
Right.
So if they're not watching you practice what you preach, they're likely not to do it themselves.
Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where we are focused on heart-centered conversations and, entrepreneurship. But today I have a special guest. Renee V is with us. She is a speech pathologist. She is a thought leader. She is an expander. Welcome, Renee. There's so much more I could say about you, but I can't wait for this conversation to unfold.
Thanks, Dana. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, I loved your energy from the day I met you. I'm like, who is this? How do I need, and everything about what you do, it just keeps, it's like it keeps shifting and expanding and growing. And I think you were originally on my radar when you hosted an event. What was it that was it the 1%? No. Yes. No.
So
Talk to me about it. Yeah.
yeah, so the 1% event was for,
Yes.
I guess troubled youth, you would say, like at-risk youth. That was in Missouri, so that was like my first time ever going to Missouri.
Missouri.
It's so strange, but there's a group of folks who are very like-minded, who are really
Yeah.
into uplifting our youth and providing
Yeah.
them with community and with information that's really helpful, because we all have been there. Our teenage years aren't the easiest. So,
No.
and I spoke on that stage, you know, um, 2 days after I hosted my own event here in Philadelphia. So it was like a jam-packed weekend of
Of you just
impact.
sharing your stuff. So, what's so interesting is you're a speech pathologist. Tell us what you're doing in the world, how you're doing it, and how you serve not only your community, but the world.
Yes.
Because I know you're on a mission. I know you're on a mission.
Yes, I am. It's something that keeps me up at night, because it troubles me that this is not a thing yet. Working on mindset with kids, working on mindset even with adults, understanding that our thoughts affect everything. And it started when I started studying it myself. Well, gosh, 5 years ago now, I started in personal development and really starting to understand who I was and what the direction I wanted to go in life, how I wanted to impact. Because being a speech pathologist for so many years in a school, I had a
Right.
big impact on that population. But it wasn't until I started integrating what I was learning with mindset that I really saw a
Right.
difference in the students I was working with.
So tell me about that. So you're a speech pathologist. How did you incorporate mindset and how did you reach them? I'm going through the whole process of school as I've got three daughters that are well in their 30s now out of school, but they would have had to get a permission slip to me. And I had one daughter work with a speech therapist to work on mindset. What is the process? What does this look like? And how do you reach them? Is it one on one? Is it
I the particular children I did this work with, and I do it with groups, but there were kids who I was noticing weren't hitting their goals the way I knew that they would be able to, based upon the amount of time we were spending together and just how I was implementing therapy with them. And it made a realization once I started learning the concepts of self-image and confidence, and how fear can affect everything if we allow fear to take over. And I just started having really candid conversations with the children and asking them, well, how are you feeling today? And what's making you feel that way? And usually you can reverse engineer it back to what thoughts they're thinking. So if they're not thinking that they're worthy of speaking better, or they're worthy of, or that they can speak better, or that they can learn this vocabulary, or that they can problem solve, they're not going to have success, because your thoughts affect your feelings, affect your
yeah,
actions. which affect your results.
So
So
you found it instrumental that mindset had everything to do with speech them learning. And
communication.
I always say we have to upgrade our language, but even the pronunciation and the confidence to speak better, it started somewhere else versus the technical and the tactical. Would you say
That you're exactly right.
mindset is even more important than that?
Oh, mindset is important for everything with everybody.
Yeah.
It literally, we create our lives based on our mindset.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you have a parent, like, so in my case, I'm fortunate that I have this knowledge, but not many parents do.
Right.
So
Right.
I've implemented a lot of this with my own children and
Yeah.
see the
Right.
benefits of it. So when
Right.
I would have a conversation, instead of really targeting, that those discrete skill sets that I was taught in school,
Mhm.
this is the disorder, this is how you treat it. I started
Yeah.
treating it more so as like a conversation with my students. And that the beauty of
Mhm.
being a speech therapist is that you have that time that you can spend where the
Yeah.
teachers are kind of inundated with curriculum. They can't really, go past a certain extent of a
Mhm.
conversation with the students because they have to get this, and this done. So for
Right.
me, it's a part of language therapy is having conversations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it all was interwoven like a beautiful fabric because once I started having those conversations with these kids, I was able to read kind of like what their temperature was that day. Are they
Mhm.
struggling or are they happy
Right.
or what is it? And then be able to build upon my therapeutic intervention with them from there. And I was seeing leaps and bounds improvement with my students.
So how embraced is this by the system?
The system doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
The system's sleeping. So
Yeah.
if you're awake and you are a person who pours into yourself,
Right.
self-development, you understand the importance of this, having a growth mindset and understanding that
Right.
we were born with a certain amount of skills like that we have developed over time, but we can do anything. It's a matter of do you believe you can or you think you can't. So, that's what I think school systems in general have a very fixed mindset. This is the way we do it. This is the way we've always done it.
Mhm.
This is the best content for our students to learn. And it's
Mhm.
ridiculous because a lot of our kids are going through, 12, sometimes, you know, 16 years of schooling and not knowing who they are, what they want,
Right.
because we're
So
not.
what have you done instrumentally to change this? I know you woke up, you said mindset is everything. You've got this degree as a speech pathologist. I know it's branched out in different areas of your life, but how have you impacted the system and what needs to be done so this is implemented? I mean, in other countries, they're doing yoga, they're doing meditation, they're understanding the importance of Zen mindset, structure. What what
Yeah.
impact have you had and what needs to be done to I should say wake up the system?
So I think the school system itself, public school system is a big mountain to move. I don't know if, over time, I'm hoping that with, now that we have all this technology and AI and all this evolution in what's
Mhm.
offered, that maybe they'll overhaul the curriculum a little bit and add more social emotional learning, which they
Mhm.
do have now, but it's not practiced as much as it should be in order for it
Mhm.
to be effective. So they call them SEL programs, so social
Right.
emotional language, that are already implemented in schools. But
Right.
in my opinion, it's done in a way where, you try and like solve the problem for that half hour, and then the next session is something different. So mindset's a
Mhm.
practice. Confidence is a practice. Patience is a practice. Everything's a practice. So
Right.
if we're just throwing that curriculum at a kid and then not having them practice it or repeating it, because repetition is how we learn everything, they may as well not get it at all because it's
Mhm.
not going to sink in.
Right. So what is the biggest challenge for the child that you're working with? I'm assuming one-on-one you're doing this work. What would be the biggest obstacle and challenge reaching them?
Um, I think you have to get the buy-in from them. So, I
Mhm.
always use the example of when I took piano lessons as a kid, right? I
Mhm.
took the piano lesson on a Tuesday. Next Tuesday, the teacher comes back. I didn't practice at all. I wasn't interested. So I wasn't going to get better. And every time she came, I would get in trouble because I didn't practice, right? So like
Yeah.
like without saying any words, I didn't want to do it. So,
Yeah.
it was a waste of money. So for me, that's the challenge, is getting the buy-in from a child or even adults, that to put in, to get anything out of this work, you have to do the work. So, and
Mm,
then it becomes more normalized in your life. It becomes who you are, as opposed to doing these tasks and strategies and trying to figure out if this is going to work or not for you. And you have to want it, right, Dana? Like, you
mm,
have to want to change or get better.
mhm.
And we can all get better. Every day
Right.
we should be trying to get better until we're no longer here. Like, there's no
Right.
like peak. We should just keep going until we no longer can.
Right.
Getting
Oh,
better every day, learning new content every day, applying that knowledge, because they always say, oh, they pile up the books in your mind, knowledge is power. It's not. Application of the knowledge is power.
right.
And if
I
you don't
always say our
apply it, it may as well not
yeah.
even be there.
Yeah. Well, the universal law says, it requires us when we know better, we're required to do better. But we don't always know, but so we are always learning and applying. And so I'm absolutely 1000% there. What do you think parents need to know? The parents that are listening right now, what do they need to know to help their children? Perhaps their child is struggling. What is it they can do to support and help in this realm?
My number one piece of advice is to work on yourself first, because
Mm,
most of us as parents, we don't realize that, even if our children are learning a certain curriculum at
mm,
school and we're not practiced in it,
right.
we're not going to speak the same language. So when it comes down to it, I've made the choice to do the work for myself in order to be that guide and be able to be that model for my children and my students, because we can't give away what we don't have. So if
Yeah.
we're preaching about, mindset and things, but we're not practicing it ourselves, we're not having it's our integrity goes out the window, and our kids are not listening to us, they're watching us.
Right.
So if they're not watching you practice what you preach, they're likely not to do it themselves.
Completely agree. So what would you say if you had to encompass and say, this is my mission? What is Renee's mission?
Renee's mission is to help build and maintain confidence in our youth and even adults, and do that through specialized programming where we're learning and applying a lot of amazing concepts that we didn't learn in school, like how our subconscious works, how
Hmm.
our thoughts work, how to set
Hmm.
worthy goals, how to make decisions. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And
Yeah.
it's that should be life curriculum. I mean, every human
Mm,
needs that. We're not taught that. We're immediately thrown into school and taught numbers and letters, which is great and
right.
helpful. But then it expands from there with, learning history and learning science, which is important. I'm not knocking the school system, but it doesn't teach us about ourselves. It doesn't teach us,
Right.
it doesn't let us use our imagination. It
Mm,
washes our imagination. So, and we end
yeah.
up following the masses, going to school for all those years, getting a job, getting married, all those things that people call success. But a lot of people, it's not for them, but they feel like they can't be the kind of the black sheep when it comes to that and do something different. And that's my goal, is to let people follow what you want to do. Does it mean you have to go to college? Absolutely not. If you want to learn a trade, go do that. It's okay.
Hmm.
It's okay to
Right.
not follow the
The
crowd.
traditional route. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what do you think the biggest challenge that teens face when it comes to communication and confidence?
The biggest challenge is that they don't feel worthy.
Mm,
They have a lack of self-worth.
mm,
And it's not because someone's not making them feel worthy. It's kind of society pressures that
mhm.
are implemented. I mean, especially the social media. There's a lot of
Yeah.
comparison to these fake, I call them fake because it looks beautiful, when you're looking at people's things, but that's just not real life.
Right.
Maybe it is for some people, but that's what our kids they're comparing themselves to. So it
So
doesn't
how do
make
you help them get clarity around that? Because it's, this is the masses. This is, how do you help put a different lens on that so they can really get clear on
Mhm.
what it is their relationship to all of this is?
The only way, and I'll quote Gary Vee, is, either we keep them off social media completely, or, we have to work on their self-worth, their self-esteem, their confidence. We have to give them those tools. And
Mhm.
the only way we can give them, Dana, is if we're doing it ourselves, right?
Right.
You can't tell your
Oh, yeah.
kid confident and you're
Oh,
not
yeah.
confident. you know
Oh,
so it's really important that we build them up and have really open conversations about what they're looking at on the social media or the computer, YouTube, whatever it is, and make
right.
sure that they understand that it shouldn't affect how they feel inside.
Right. So, what
you
do you think the biggest barrier is in reaching them? What is that? I always say the terror barrier is something new, but what is the barrier in reaching kids where the blinders are on and you got to speak that language to them? What would be the biggest barrier in reaching them?
their parents.
Well, what can we say to a lot of kids aren't going to be listening to this. A lot of parents will be listening to this. What can we say to the parents that are listening to this and they feel the lack of communication? They feel the barrier. What can you share that can help them reach?
What I would really love for every parent to realize is that everyone could use a mentor. As a parent, we can use a mentor.
Mm,
As a kid, we can use a mentor. Even famous, all the famous people have coaches and mentors. No one is,
yeah,
gliding through life, by themselves
yeah.
learning. It just doesn't work. It
Mm.
doesn't work we can't do it alone, Dana. It's
And let's add, they don't have to hire a mentor. There's a pastor or there's a
yes.
school council. I mean, there are people everywhere that can be mentors, a coach, a high school coach, a basketball that we can lean into
Yeah, I mean,
for,
look on Facebook, there's
yeah,
groups for everything.
yeah,
Join a group, it's free, and
yeah,
and search whatever you're concerned about, and 1,800 comments and offers will pop up of what people have done to get through to their children, and to have that really open communication with them. And
right.
a lot of times our kids don't want to communicate with us because we judge them. They fear judgment. And I've learned that, I was judged growing up,
Mm,
and it's not an easy thing to handle if you're not really confident in yourself. So,
mm,
my goal as a parent is to be as open-minded as possible with my children. And as long as what they're doing is legal, ethical, and moral, I support it. It might look
yeah,
completely different than what, Renee as a mom envisioned for her kids, but it
but it's
doesn't mean
working.
it's
Yeah,
wrong. It doesn't
yeah,
mean it's not okay. It's a matter of being flexible as a parent.
right. Can you leave people today with some practical skills and exercises that can strengthen their communication with their children?
Sure. I mean, it starts with, you know, um, paying attention and being intentional about giving them a compliment. Letting them know that you're proud of them, for not because of they got good grades, but because maybe they spoke to a new friend, or maybe they sat
Mhm,
with someone at the table that was, not didn't have any friends, things like that, where we're really showing them that we are watching what they're
mhm,
doing, and positive reinforcement works for most, I think. So when it comes down to it, to be able to have those conversations when they get home, and be able to encourage them to,
mhm,
be of value to other humans, and
mhm,
whatever that looks like, whether it be picking up litter off the street, or
mhm.
um going to the soup kitchen and donating food, or whatever it is that you would find important for them to be learning and to see, and being a part of it with them and doing it with them.
So if a parent has lost all communication and at certain ages in the teenage, they may slam their door, they don't want to communicate with you,
Mhm.
what would be the one thing parents can do to reach that teen? Because I think we've all been there where we
Mhm.
lose that, we have this wonderful connection and then we don't. And it's
Yeah.
of no fault of our own doing. It's just a shift in consciousness. What's one thing we can do to hold space for that age and reconnect?
Yes, I think it's important that we realize that every child's different. So there might be a child that goes into their room and slams the door and really doesn't want to be bothered, like needs that time to decompress.
Right, right.
But if you have a yappy mom that's blah, 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 what's wrong with you? Blah, 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 like sometimes our kids will go into back, like they'll retreat into their turtle shell as opposed to wanting to have that conversation at that moment. So I've learned both my children are very different in this case. My son who's 16, I if he's angry about something or we have an argument and he goes to his room, I don't bother him. I let him be, and I know this is won't work for everybody, but this is
Right.
my child, and what's worked for me is
Right.
to not, respond, don't react, number one, which is something I've had to learn. I was a reactor for many years.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. It doesn't work. So
No.
responding in a calm voice, no matter how angry you are, is much more powerful than yelling and punishing and all of that kind of stuff because you're letting your child know that you're open to listening. Because if you're yelling and you're not understanding the process they have to go through to bring themselves
Right.
off of that anger, or frustration, then it almost is detrimental how we behave with them because it makes them go further away as opposed to wanting, I want my kids to say, not to say, oh no, my mom's going to kill me. I want them to say, I need to talk to my mom.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me, Renee, how can people find you? What tell us about you and where you're at now?
Okay, so I am in kind of a transitional period. For anybody who's an entrepreneur, they know how it goes. The roller coaster goes up and down every day,
Yeah.
sometimes 10 times a day. I am right now trying to move from online programming to in-person programming for teens, young adults. I'm kind of really interested in
Mhm.
helping parents of children who have speech and language delays because not only am I a mom, my daughter had a speech delay, but I'm
Mhm.
also a speech therapist and I've worked with
Right.
families for 23 years. So I have a really good knowledge of how to interact and kind of help. So
Do you
that
travel? Is this going to be just local in Philadelphia, or are you going to, are you
so
thinking
that's
of
what
a,
I'm trying to figure out. I'm
yeah,
not close to being online
it's
with adults.
evolving. It's evolving.
Yes, I'm not close to it. I'm just an in-person person. Like I'd rather be sitting in the room with you right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
For me, it's hard to reach people on this platform, because there's all these things, right? They have the phone, there's the chapstick over here. There's a lot of distraction, but when you're
Mhm.
sitting in a room, you're more able to have those really good interactions and rapport,
Yeah.
that rapport. So for me, I would love, 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 love to speak to groups of parents about this and how they can give them the strategies. And that's why I've kind of gone on the public speaking route is to get my voice out there to more people and have
Right.
them understand that they don't need to do this alone.
Hmm.
There's always someone that's going to be willing to help, but we have to voice that we need the help.
Right. So what is the name of your book and how can they find that?
So I have two books. One is already published. It's called Is Manifesting Bullshit. And it's really a culmination. There's five of us that co-authored the book, and it really talks about manifestation and energy and how it's not woo-woo and it's not fluffy, it's real science and how we can imagine something in our mind and have it become our reality. And that's what everything on this earth was invented that way. It was
Mhm.
first a thought in someone's mind and then it became a reality. So when we think about it that way,
Mm.
it sounds more like functional than fluffy, if that
When
makes
we get off here, you're going to have to bounce into my stories where I'm talking about the universal law of vibration, how thoughts
sense.
are magnetic and they will
Yes.
create your life. So if you want to raise, let's ask better questions. So it's crazy. I just did that. I thought
Oh
I'm
my
going to bounce
gosh,
on and do a little bit of video prior to my next taping, and that's what I just did. So
that's wild.
yeah. Well, my book is on that will be published this next month is on universal laws and everything is energy and
Love it.
interchanging them and how we show up and what we can do about it and all the
Well, we
modalities
could
that
totally geek out on
yeah.
that for
Oh yeah,
hours.
get totally geek out. I mean,
I
yeah,
love
I
it.
wouldn't do what I do if it wasn't for knowing that our subconscious and our consciousness are so powerful and we must rewire and reprogram. And I think that's
And
what
when
you're
did
talking about
you
today.
learn? I'm
Yeah.
so curious. When did you learn about that?
I would say probably being born and intuitive, I knew that I second guessed myself a lot because I just couldn't believe the things I knew to be true to be true. And I think that my evolution through my life, it wasn't until I made an enormous amount of mistakes, second guessing, calling in a lot of betrayal, not addressing the core wound, the core fear that showed up in my world. I started to understand that everything was energy and that I was manifesting and I was calling in every betrayal, that I was the common denominator and that I had to take accountability. And it doesn't mean I deserved it, but it did mean that, wait a minute, if I don't heal this, I'm going to continue. That's going to show up over and over again. So I broke it down and kept it very simple. And then I started studying universal laws about a decade ago, maybe longer, 15 years, 10 years teaching it. I would say universal laws, mastering it with the book, but it's always in play. It's always in motion. I'm always
Always.
learning. I'll be a student forever because this is my jam. This is what I do. And this is moving. We're moving. Our energy
Yeah.
is moving. We're vibrating. And with 65,000 thoughts a day and 95% being in that subconscious, we got 5% that we're interjecting and rewiring. And that's what you're talking, using speech pathology as reprogramming and rewiring our thought process, because every thought is magnetic and we speak our life into existence. So I think everything we say, I say, be very intentional about what you say out there, because your life will follow, just, like a little puppy behind you. Here comes your life. So yeah,
What we think about it.
yeah,
It's what
yeah.
every scientist, religion,
Yeah,
everybody
it's scientific. Yeah, this isn't
is
woo
in
woo.
agreement.
This isn't, it's, people think, oh, you're so woo woo. Nothing woo woo about it. Totally
It's
scientific.
just
Yeah,
as real as gravity, right? We know
yeah,
we're not gonna if we go near a cliff and we jump off, we're not going up, we're going down. It's a law.
yeah,
It doesn't go away.
yeah.
And when
Yeah, the
people
law of relativity. Yeah, this is everything is energy, and we vibrate 15 feet in every direction. This is scientific, and we
Mhm.
wonder why we can feel someone's lack of confidence. We can feel certain things, and we feel it for a reason, because that's what they're emulate. I mean, we transmit and we receive all day long, and our job is to listen to it with I believe,
Our
our heart
intuition, our
energy.
third eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with our heart energy, not our ego energy, which can divide, separate, and judge all of that. But we want to stay open with love and compassion and expansion, and say, what's perfect about this, and continue to vibrate higher with better questions. I love the questions you ask. I love how you show up. I love your movement and what I can see, the vision of what you're doing. And we could geek out all day, no doubt, you
Yes.
know. And
But I also wanted to mention The Change is my other book that's coming out, and
oh yeah, not
my
yet out
chapter.
yet. Not yet out yet, but
Not
it's
yet.
coming.
It's coming out. I've submitted my chapter, but it's another anthology, and I kind of break down in my
Yeah.
chapter, um, all the important concepts that I learned from Bob Proctor and Think and Grow Rich. But it's Renee's take on it. So
Yeah.
it's super cool for people to read,
Yeah.
because it might raise awareness as to what, maybe interest in learning more about this type of stuff,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
it
Absolutely.
will just make your life better.
Yeah.
That's all.
So yeah, just make your life better. That's all. So how can people find you right now, and where do you hang out? Where's your hub the most? Instagram? Do you have a website? How can people find you?
I'm on Instagram. It's at Renee double underscore VEE. I'm also on LinkedIn as Renee V Vardouniotis, my long name, but you can certainly find me on there.
Yeah. Renee
I am
V.
on Facebook. I try, but it's every day's different. Oh, this now TikTok, blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
I have really, I post the most on Instagram just because I like Instagram.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm building my new webpage right now, reneev.com. So that'll be, by the time this comes out, will probably be up and running, where you can find out, about, my speaking, my authorship,
Your events, all
what I
that, all
do,
that good stuff.
all that stuff. Or if you want to email me and contact me, Renee@reneev.com.
Love it. And that's V as in VEE. We'll have all your links, all the details. Renee, thank you for being here today. I love what you do. I love the fact that you started with your degree in speech pathology, and you saw that, and this is my work in the world, is as being a thought leader and teaching mindset is so important. And you took something, your degree, and said, wait a minute, this doesn't work without this. And I
Yeah.
can elevate this and I can do better. And I always say universal law, when we know better, we do better. And that's exactly what you do. And I love the fact you're in kind of the messy middle. You're in this entrepreneurship and expansion where you don't know where it's going to go. I'm so excited for you. And
Thank
yeah,
you so much. You make it sound awesome.
well, it is awesome. It is awesome. So
I like
Thank
hearing it from other people though, because I know it, but I love hearing when
Yeah.
people
Well, someday
get
soon
it.
we'll be in the same room and vibrating high
Yeah,
and we'll geek out on all the good stuff that we know to be true.
I love it.
And even if you reach, I always say even if we reach one person with this podcast and it changes their life and they reach out to you, it's like woo, success.
Yeah,
Although I
that's
think we're gonna reach a lot more than that. But yeah, reach out to
thanks.
Renee, listen to this on repeat. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Renee, thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dana.
Yeah, and thank you all the loyal followers and fans. We've got some great people that follow the Dana Grant Show. Where thank you for being here today and have a really blessed day. Bye for now.